Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. In today's video we're going to focus on the Inquisitors in the Kenobi series. As always my dear friends, before we get into it, please be sure to hit that big red subscribe button down below if you've not done so, and also be sure to give that bell a good old tickle to be alerted every time I post a new video. But without much further ado, and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into the news. We begin with an update for Reva, the third sister. Moses Ingram, who is starring in the role, recently opened up about what we can expect from this character and just how brutal this new Inquisitor is going to be. In her own words, she says Reva is a boss, I mean really like a full-on athlete. She's on a mission and will conquer that at all costs. When given the opportunity, she's pretty badass. Putting on a cape was a dream I didn't know I had. I felt like I was 10 again. It was super dope. And obviously guys, a few months ago we saw her Instagram post of her training with lightsabers, and at the time that was really cool, but with all of the new information and from what I've personally heard, the action sequences involving Reva are crazy, and I'm talking about really incredibly coordinated, and as we know, she is said to be the most violent and daring of the Inquisitors in this show. And just for examples, as we know according to the recent leaks, she's going to hang the Jedi survivor called Nari. She's also going to make a display of Tatooine citizens, and the lowdown is, she is basically willing to crush anyone in the way of her goal, and there is no Inquisitor like her. Now, when we first heard rumours that the Inquisitors were going to be in the Kenobi series, I was both overjoyed but also cautiously optimistic. At the time, I had a very high view of what an Inquisitor should be, and I was afraid that in live action, in a show like Kenobi, that could go very wrong. But I don't feel that way anymore. I'm simply over the moon. Having seen the teaser trailer and from reading the recent leaks and reports, I have no worries they're going to do the Inquisitorious a lot of justice. Now, I know that there are some fans out there who take issue with the Inquisitors and they don't like that they're being included in the show, but I will say, as a massive fan of Star Wars Rebels and Jedi Fallen Order, I was really glad they're including this faction of the Imperial Force into live action. Some folks have asked me if the Inquisitors break the rule of two. No, they do not, because Inquisitors are not considered Sith. The use of the dark side allies like the Inquisitors and the Night Sisters was not a violation of the rule of two, because they're not considered Sith. The distinction between a Sith and a mere dark side user or ally is very important, because Sith, fully fledged Sith, had secrets they did not share with other dark side users. And also bear in mind that the Inquisitors were just a tool to be used by Darth Vader for his own goals. They were somewhat disposable, and as we've seen, he was willing to destroy them the moment they failed at a task. So as badass as they were, in the eyes of Vader, they were just another tool at his disposal. And as I've said before, if you want to familiarize yourself with the Inquisitors, just watch a couple of seasons of Rebels. Just get a flavor of what they're about and what we can expect from them in this show. Now, the Inquisitorious was always something that I felt was super underexplored, and yet, the few Inquisitors we've seen were instant fan favourites. The Inquisition is something that's given a bit of backstory in the Vader comics too. Inquisitors were mysterious, and we were given just enough backstory to be hooked on them as characters, and not just see them as paper-thin bad guys working for Vader. And I think it's the fact that they were former Jedi, who were mostly Padawans when they were taken after Order 66, that makes them a really dark and tragic addition to the canon. My personal favourite of all of them was Trilla Seduri, the second sister, who unfortunately is killed by Vader at the end of Jedi Fallen Order. I say unfortunately because she is a character I would have loved to have seen in the Kenobi series. She was brutal, domineering, and overall an absolute badass, but the fact that we're getting the third sister, who is said to be even more brutal, is something I look forward to, and we're also getting the Grand Inquisitor and fifth brother, who are both Star Wars Rebels fan favourites, and also a new female Threidian Inquisitor as well. And look, regardless of the really bizarre character design for the two Inquisitors we already know, I think it's something we just have to get used to, and I highly doubt it's going to take anything away from our enjoyment of this show. If anything, the memes that have emerged from the situation are pretty hilarious, and as a prequels fan myself, I do enjoy a good internet meme around this era of storytelling. And bear in mind, my dear friends, even if you're not a fan of the Inquisitors and I can't convince you, we do have two fights between Obi-Wan and Vader to look forward to. And those fights sound like they're being handled in a very respectful way that takes into consideration Obi-Wan's more feeble state at this point. And it is worth mentioning something Ewan McGregor said the other day. Obi-Wan is not going to be the fit and skilled Jedi Master that he was in Revenge of the Sith, at least not in the first fight. 10 years in the hot Tatooine sun, without much use of his lightsaber as a broken and hopeless hermit, is going to do that to you. But by the second fight, we will see more of what we got on Mustafar, with a much more confident, practiced and prepared Kenobi. And that character development is going to be really cool to see, and this kind of story arc for a character works so much better in a series than it would do in a movie. If you remember, Kathleen Kennedy said that Kenobi was originally going to be a big screen release. Well, thankfully it's a TV series, and 6 episodes is going to make for a longer runtime than any cinematic release. In many ways, the Kenobi series is going to take us on a very emotional journey. I for one simply can't wait, and bear in mind the other day we got the teaser trailer, but the full trailer is still to come. And so finally, my dear Mandalorians, something that could be an absolute nothing burger, but it's making the rounds on social media, and I'm here to report on the latest Star Wars news, so let's get into it. Daisy Ridley has finally opened up somewhat bluntly about returning as Rey. In recent times, there have been a lot of signs that hint towards Lucasfilm at some point developing new stories using the Sequel Trilogy characters. And while it's my least favourite trilogy and I'm not a huge fan of those films, stories that take place after the rise of Skywalker could be interesting, and I'm willing to give anything a chance. So what's the update? Well, Twitter user Rey Skywalker shared a video of an interview with Star Wars actress Daisy Ridley from the 2022 BAFTA Film Awards. When she was asked about a possible return to Star Wars, Ridley could only smile, and she gave a very blunt response: "I'll always be Rey." Now this could hint towards a return as the character one day soon, and it's pretty much a certainty that Lucasfilm have already contacted her, as well as other Sequel Trilogy cast. We also recently had Oscar Isaac giving a very praising review of the controversial Galactic Starcruiser, and overall it seems like the cast recently have shown much more warmth towards the idea of a sequel reprisal than they did when The Rise of Skywalker came out. And for better or for worse, it seems like we will be getting a Sequel Trilogy continuation at some stage. Now before I go, my dear friends, we're going to speak about LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, because the most recent video from Warner Brothers Games seems to show some really deep cut characters. We've spoken about some of these like Yaddle, but we now know there are also going to be some really deep cut Clone Wars characters, and one of the ones highlighted is Mama the Hutt. Very obscure, and I can't wait to see what other ones are going to be in this game. It seems like they've gone all out to make sure all areas of the galaxy are covered. And so ending on a comedic and light-hearted note, that, my dear friends, brings us to the end of this news update. If you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and why not comment down below before you go. Let me know your thoughts on everything we spoke about in today's video. But until the next one, my dear friends, may the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.